Craving a bite from the past? We can all agree that fried foods are a hit, but some of the foods I ate as a child are no longer on the menu, so I'm going to remind you. But did you know that you could fry fruits? You could fry a tomato and just eat it, something called fried green tomatoes. In the mid-20th century, the Southerners thought it was a bright idea to fry and eat unripe tomatoes, but it was not their fault. Most of them learned this recipe after the film Fried Green Tomatoes hit the screens. In it, a female protagonist is known to have been daydreaming of a plate of fried green tomatoes like the ones served at a restaurant known to her, the Whistle Stop Cafe. But before this movie, this dish was popular amongst the Jews. In fact, it was brought to the U.S. in the 19th century by Jewish immigrants and later appeared in Northeastern and Midwestern cookbooks. The Southerners in the U.S. fell in love with this meal almost immediately, and you might too. The green tomatoes were fried to perfection, usually served with shrimp and a Cajun tomato cream sauce, and easily became everyone's favorite. If you must try it, do not fry your tomatoes whole. Rather, slice them before coating them in cornmeal or flour and frying. What better way to hop back into the past than with fried frog legs? This tender treat was once popular in the South and Midwest, but it was also common in France. Fried frog legs was a marinated meal that felt and tasted like fried chicken, which explains why people liked it that much. This meal, made with frog legs, buttermilk, and flour, was popular in the 19th and 20th centuries. In fact, the eating of frog legs can be traced back to over 8,000 years ago, when archaeologists dug out cooked frog legs in England. The fried version was usually served fresh as an appetizer or main course in seafood restaurants, and people in both rural and urban settings enjoyed it. It was not eaten by everyone, though, only by adventurous eaters. I know some of you are watching this and saying, "Nah, I'll pass on this one," but you won't pass these fried oysters. Fried oysters were once a coastal and southern delight in the 19th and 20th centuries. Oyster beds were abundant in the South, so it makes sense that the locals made a meal out of them. Once the shells came off, it was a party. At first, fried oysters became popular because they came at no cost at all. This snack was found in low-income homes until the 20th century. All you needed was some oysters, cornmeal, and most importantly, oil. Just like the fried frog legs, it was mostly served fresh in paper trays in seafood shacks and coastal fairs, and it was eaten with hot sauces and even in soups and salads. Seafood lovers loved it because it was a good source of protein and omega-3 fatty acids. Some locals also called it oyster fritters or cracker crumb oysters. If you love fried chicken, you might want to come a bit closer to this. Back in the 1940s to 1970s, the people in the southern part of the U.S. loved fried chicken so much that they also ate the livers. Not only did they eat them, they fried them too. The livers were coated in seasoned flour or batter and fried till crispy. Imagine enjoying a hot, crunchy snack with a bottle of beer or whiskey after a tasking day. Even though chicken livers were loved for their amazing taste, it was often served as an appetizer with a rich sauce. Working-class families loved how easy it was to make this snack. It was also a rich source of iron and vitamin A, but also had high cholesterol content. You have heard of popcorn, but I bet you have never heard of corn fritters. In fact, July 16th is National Corn Fritters Day in the U.S. This snack is one of the many that actually originated in America. It was created by the Native Americans in the mid-20th century. That is not a surprise since corn itself originated in America. The Native Americans turned these simple corn kernels into a golden, sweet, and crispy snack that they ate at home and at local fairs and festivals. In Indonesia, corn fritters are known as perkedel jagung or bakwan jagung. Apart from the obvious ingredients, oil, corn kernels, and flour, you also needed eggs and milk to achieve this meal. You can enjoy it with cream, honey, milk, or even jam. If you plan on trying this out on July 16th this year, note that it can be high in calories and fat, but also a good source of fiber. Have you ever wondered what passed as a threat during the Great Depression? Fried Bolognia did. This simple lunch was budget-friendly and provided a sense of warmth during those. It was also quite tasty. It took only 2 to 3 minutes to make, and all you needed was bologna and oil. While fried bologna could be found across the South, It must have originated from Arkansans. It later became popular in working-class households and a few diners after the Great Depression struck in the 1930s to 1960s, and people needed a cheap meal that could also serve as lunch and a snack. Fried Bolognia is mostly eaten with bread as a sandwich. Think of chunks of fried meat resting between soft, white bread. You might even pair it with lettuce, cheese, or fried eggs if you want a perfect experience. There's no way this list will be complete without Spam. It was one of those few meals used by the US military to survive the Second World War. Spam is basically canned pork and ham. The soldiers needed all the protein they could get, and what better way than with this canned meat? In 1937, Hormel Foods combined pork, water, salt, sugar, and sodium nitrate and sold it off as food. However, this wartime necessity soon became a new twist on dinner tables back home. Fried Spam was made with Spam, flour or batter, and oil. It became popular during the Second World War due to its long shelf life, and its popularity lasted till the 1970s. Apart from the soldiers in war, middle and working-class civilians also ate this treat at homes and in diners. They loved it because of its long shelf life and because it was a versatile and easy-to-prepare protein source. Most veterans would remember this meal from their time in the war, just like I remember this next fried food, the fried tripe. Yes, fried tripe is exactly what you think it is, fried cow's stomach. Does that sound disgusting? Well, it isn't. Ethnic communities, like Italians and Mexicans, transformed cow stomachs into a crunchy dish with a unique texture in the 20th century. They simply coated boiled tripe in flour and fried till crispy, and it was delicious. Tripe, when cleaned properly, is a good source of protein. Its flavor is even used in some dishes, like menudo. The fried version was a popular dinner in many cultures, including Southern US and European cultures, and was mainly served in working-class homes or in ethnic restaurants. Who remembers fried brains? Don't allow the name to throw you off. Fried brains was a delicious breakfast in the Southern US. It was made from cow or pig brains, battered and fried until golden brown. Preparing this meal was easy, and it was delicious. Think of a snack, crispy on the outside and creamy on the inside, often eaten in a sandwich. It could be taken on its own, but pairing this crunchy meal with white toast was the best way to enjoy it. Fried brains became quite popular on menus in St. Louis, Missouri, after the rise of the city's stockyards in the late 1880s. This crunchy meal was eaten with relish by the people in the southern US and some parts of Europe up until the end of the 20th century. The rural people also called it calf's brains, or brain fritters. Fried brains were mostly served fresh at diners and local fairs. Unfortunately, it lost its fame after it was rumored as a possible cause of the mad cow disease. Okay, that's a bit odd, but how about fried chicken livers? First, what kind of name was Hush Puppies? The name means exactly what it sounds like. Hush puppy. It is said that back in the mid-20th century, people on fishing trips would be grilling their catch when their hounds would begin barking hungrily. To quiet them, their owners would throw bits of dry dough in the fryer and throw the fried pieces to the dogs to keep them quiet. There is another version that includes soldiers trying to quiet their dogs during a war, but many food blogs have written off that version as a myth. Hush Puppies, initially created to hush puppies, became an excellent side meal often served with fish. Hush Puppies was simply cornmeal batter fried into small golden balls. It became popular in seafood restaurants in the southern US after the American Civil War since cornbread was cheap and could be made in many different shapes. Did you know that in the 1960s and 1980s, fried cucumbers were a snack in some local bars? But first, these cucumbers were turned into pickles. Who came up with this? Burnell Fat Man Austin did. Fat Man owned a restaurant in Arkansas, the Duchess Drive-In near Atkins. Fat Man had a problem. There were many other restaurants in Arkansas, and he needed a signature dish to stand out. Well, right across the street from his drive-in was a pickle company, and so an idea was born. Fat Man coated the pickles in flour and fried them until they were crispy. He named them fried pickles and sold an order of 15 for only 15 cents. It became a hit, mainly because of its unique and tangy taste. In recent times, however, the Hollywood Cafe in Mississippi has claimed to have come up with this new snack. Do you love apple pie? But what about a fried one? If you are an adventurous eater, you should try this. It might not look very appealing in comparison with a normal apple pie, but it would look somewhat like an empanada. It is quite delicious. Apple pies don't have a clear origin story, but they are traditional Southern desserts that brought families together during the apple harvest season in the mid-20th century. Historically, in the American South, all fried pies were known as crab lanterns, a term that dates back to at least 1770 and originated from crab apple pies that had slits for ventilation, slits that resembled a lantern. All you needed to create this old meal was dough, apple filling, oil, and sugar for dusting. It was enjoyed at family gatherings or sold at local fairs and diners with glazes and dipping sauce. In the 1960s and 1970s, Italian-American communities fried their zucchini. This meal later faded off in the 1980s after serving families for over 30 years. The sliced zucchini was coated in seasoned flour or breadcrumbs and fried until crispy. Preferences vary, though. Some do not like the deep brown version and would scoop it off the oil while it's still white. Others would cut their zucchini in stripes, while some would make round shapes. Until it faded off, fried zucchini was a favorite appetizer at Italian family dinners and was even passed down in family cookbooks. We all love to sneak off crumbs of dough while baking, but have you ever tried frying some? Citizens of the US did in the 20th century, but they were not the only ones. This snack can be traced to as early as 8000 BC in China and Egypt. Fried dough was crispy and golden on its exterior and fluffy and white inside. It made a loud crunch when you bit into it and left your tongue with a sweet aftertaste. To prepare this, the dough was shaped into rounds or strips and fried until golden, then dusted with sugar. It was served at fairs or carnivals across the US and was loved by all classes of people, including little kids. It was also known by various names like elephant ears or beaver tails. You would not believe this, but many years ago in the 1980s, fried ice cream was a popular meal in Mexican-American cuisine. It was also found in some Japanese restaurants. However, there is also some evidence that the Chinese enjoyed this snack back in the 1800s. Fried ice cream is simply ice cream coated in batter and fried to create a crispy shell. And the best part? It never melted. This sweet treat was the ultimate dessert, where a crispy shell hit a cold, creamy snack. All you needed was ice cream, batter, and oil. It was typically enjoyed by children with sweet tooths in middle and upper-class homes up until the 2000s, which was not very long ago. Do you love a snack that is crispy on the outside but juicy on the inside? If you had lived around the 1960s and 70s, you would have loved fried mushrooms. Fried mushrooms were made by deep-frying edible mushrooms. It was a common appetizer in the US and was a middle-class favorite mainly because it was promoted in restaurants or fish and chips shops as a healthy alternative to other fried foods. It was enjoyed with ranch dressing, garlic mayonnaise, or barbecue sauce, and sometimes spices were added to the batter for flavor. Along with other chicken parts, the gizzard was also sought after in the mid-20th century by Southerners in the US. Gizzards formed a huge part of the fried chicken gizzard meal that was often served fresh in restaurants or at home. Fried gizzards were mostly crispy. The crispy part was important as this meal was known and loved for being so chewy. It was often served as an appetizer or snack during family traditions. Some people prefer their fried gizzards to be more tender, and this is achieved by first stewing the gizzard for a long time before being deep frying. Another vegetable made to pass through oil and fire in the 1970s was the cauliflower. Cauliflower has always been iconic. It even made its way into the 2017's crime movie Logan Lucky. The fried cauliflower was made with flour or breadcrumbs, seasoning, and oil. It was popular in the Mediterranean and Indian cultures and was prepared by coating cauliflower florets in batter or breadcrumbs and frying until golden. It was freshly made in ethnic restaurants and enjoyed by middle and upper-class diners. This meal faded off in the 1990s. On the 3rd of July, 1916, a new meal was born. Lawrence Dexter Woodman, fondly known as Chubby, was in his small restaurant in the Massachusetts village of Essex. trying to whip up treats for tourists. He had plenty of clams, which he had dug himself from the flats of the Essex River. As he worked, someone suggested that frying clams might be a good idea, so Mr. Woodman tried it. He dredged the clams in seasoned flour and fried them until they were crispy. He loved the taste so much that he added his new creation to his menu. Fried clams was a hit, and he completely sold out on July 4th. This seafood twist later became popular in the coastal communities in New England. It was crunchy, had a briny taste, and was greatly loved by seafood lovers. Apart from Mr. Woodman's restaurant, it was also served in cardboard containers in seafood shacks and even became a household staple. We all love Twinkies, but did you know that in the early 2000s these beloved cakes were fried and sold at fairs and carnivals? Think about a sweet, crunchy cake on your tongue. A British-born vendor, Christopher Sell, thought about this so much he actually tried them out in his kitchen. When he tasted it, he fell in love and decided others must taste it too. So he served them at the Texas State Fair in 2002. And that was how this snack was born. It was made by coating twinkles in batter and freezing until solid. After it became solid, these cakes were fried until golden brown. All kinds of people enjoyed fried Twinkies. Would you love to learn old and forgotten recipes like this? If so, like this video, click subscribe, and stay tuned for more content.